the old adage of it takes years to become an overnight success is absolutely true. Because I never had any intentions or delusions that this was going to be turned into anything else. Certainly when I started the podcast, again, it was 2005. People were like, what? I mean, it was literally weeks after the technology first came out. So answering the question, what is a podcast, was my primary job, not figuring out how am I going to monetize this? How am I going to market this? Yeah. It was never part of the plan. And it wasn't until sometime later when I started to realize that there was a potential for a business in this. More importantly, Julie, it was a thing that does and did and must always fueled my fire. Like, it's the thing that got me up early at night. It kept me up, late on nights and weekends, and was willing to sacrifice other things to do this thing, not because there was any sort of financial payoff, but because of how it made me feel. And at one point I said to myself, the answer to the question is fear, right? So why and how did I make the thing? It was fear. And it was not fear of failure. It was fear of regret. And it was the fear that 5, 10, 20 years down the road, I look back and go, I wonder what would have happened if I would have done this thing. And I think what if are two incredibly powerful words, because I think so often people say, well, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people don't like it? What if people make fun of me? What if nobody listens? You have to turn that around. Because I'm like, what if I go down there and I can make this work? Like, I wonder what happens if. So I had to take that leap of faith. And I knew then the same thing that I knew now. And the answer to the question is exactly the same. If you asked me then and you ask me now, what do I do for a living? I say whatever it takes. And it's not a BS throwaway line. It's true. Like, I knew I had, you take a leap of faith, you had a little bit of a parachute. I knew I could move to Florida and had a few months worth of money in the bank to make sure the rent got paid and my kids could eat. I said, but if it doesn't work, I'll do whatever I need to do in order to make that happen. And I still will today.
So, what's interesting about this too is, I talk to a lot of women. First of all, like, you are so speaking my language. This is why we connect. This is why I connect with you. And this is why I've been listening to you for so long. You're so speaking my language. And for a lot of women, as they're maybe starting an entrepreneurial journey, or they've got a hobby and they're thinking about turning it into something more, and it does start to get a little bit bigger. They do start to get scary. Oftentimes, for my listeners, I think oftentimes they may or may not be the primary breadwinner in the family, but I'm guessing you probably were. That this leap to Florida was more than just a hobby. It's like, how do you get everybody on board with this idea that, oh, hi, let's go to Florida and I'm going to quit this job and try this job and get everyone on board with that?
So I'll tell you that, and whether you're first starting out or you're trying to turn the corner and move the needle, it's a very important and very difficult and scary part, because not everybody is going to buy into it. I was very fortunate, very blessed that my parents, and I worked for my dad in my dad's firm, they were very much behind it. When I asked my wife, going back to the very beginning, I have this idea for a book, and she says, all you know about is Disney World. And I said, you're right. And I went downstairs and started writing. And then when I said, I think we need to move to Florida, the words okay weren't out of her mouth before I went down and started packing, in case she didn't, change her mind.
It's your mind.
But I did have a lot of friends I didn't have a lot of friends, but I had close friends who I said, this is what I'm going to do. And they were like, wait a minute, Mongello. Like, you did your cute little book and you talk to yourself in your office for an hour a week about Mickey Mouse, hoping that somebody listens. But now you mean to tell me you're going to leave, and I say this to sort of illustrate the point, a very lucrative job, which was very cushy, right? Health benefits. You've got this house that you overpaid for in 2005. You mean to tell me you're going to leave all that behind to pack up all your stuff, move to Florida, to a house sight unseen, to try and figure out a way, hopefully, that you could make money? And I'm like, yeah, man, isn't that awesome? And they said, I give you 6 months. They said, you're going to be back begging for your job in 6 months. And that was very eye-opening to me. One, I'm not friends with them anymore. Right. But two, like Walt Disney, and I'm going to use a Walt thing because I know you get it. When Walt started with Snow White, they said it was Disney's folly. They said, you're crazy. When he wanted to start doing live action, they said he was nuts. the idea of building Disneyland or Walt Disney World in the swampland that was Florida was crazy. You have to be able to push past that negativity, that lack of vision, and sometimes the envy or jealousy that maybe even people that are close to you might have.